Hi everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today is a snowy and freezing cold day here, so I decided I'm going to use this as a study day. I have class from 1 to 3, but other than that I don't have anything else going on this morning. So I'm going to be studying, and that made me think I should make a how I study video because I do get a lot of questions about that. And I think that me explaining my study habits might be helpful to you guys because I've struggled with studying efficiently ever since nursing school, and since I've gotten to CRNA school, I've really improved my study habits a lot, so I wanted to share. So I'm going to take you through how I study for my neuro anesthesia class because it'll make more sense if I just explain this for one class at a time, and that's the hardest class I have right now. So I'm going to explain to you how I study for that from beginning, the first day of lecture, over the 2 or 3 weeks coming up to a test, because we have lectures, tests, and we have a test every 2 to 3 weeks. So the first thing that I do is I go through my syllabus and organize myself for the unit we're working on. So we usually have 5 exams in a class, and it'll be unit 1 through 5, and each unit will have its own little subsections. So I'll go through the syllabus, I'll make a list of the readings for each unit and subsection, and then I know what to focus on for the week. Now I don't read before lecture anymore. I did used to. You might have heard me say in previous videos that I have, but I figured out if I read after lecture, it helps me focus in a lot more on the concepts that the teacher finds important and that the professor wants us to memorize. So I found that to be more efficient than reading everything and getting stuck in the reading forever. What I do before class is review the PowerPoints just so I have an idea of what's going on, and when I get into class I know if I have any questions and I know what we're going to be focusing on. So the next thing I do after that is we get into class, I listen and take notes in lecture. I try really hard to pay attention in lecture and take notes. I do have kind of focus issues sometimes in that kind of environment, but I've been doing pretty good about it, and that's my #1 goal when I'm in class, is to try and pay attention and take notes, because sometimes the teacher does say stuff that's important that they didn't actually write on the PowerPoint. Now the weakest part of my whole study routine is probably that, taking notes in lecture and paying attention the whole time. So after I get back from lecture, in the next day or 2 days or 3 days, depending on our clinic schedule, whenever I have time, I go through all my notes and my PowerPoints and just kind of review everything, and then I do the reading, which I do basically skim the reading. I don't read every little section, but I skim it until I find stuff that I felt like the teacher talked about a lot in class, and then I read that section. Or if there's a subject that I'm confused about or a concept I don't understand, I read that section as well. And I do highlight while I'm reading. I actually have ebooks, so I highlight on the computer, and then I take things that I find really important from the reading and add them to my PowerPoint notes from lecture. And after I've done all that, I go into Quizlet and make flashcards for myself. So I find flashcards very helpful. I need to be able to see something and be able to explain it without multiple choices to know that I've really mastered the content. So I rewrite my whole entire PowerPoint into questions that are for me, and that really helps me solidify on the concepts, because if you can make up a question about material and explain the answer, it really helps you understand the material and use your critical thinking a lot better. So rewording stuff really helps me, so I make all these flashcards in Quizlet, and what I'll do is make 1 flashcard set for exam 1, 1 for exam 2, and so on. And then when I get to finals, I'll have these 5 flashcard sets for all the exams we had, and I can just study my flashcards and everything's in one place. So it's super helpful and it's much more efficient for me. Just want to throw in here really fast that none of these study materials I'm talking about at all are like sponsored. I'm not affiliated with any of them. I'm just telling you about them because they've helped me. So this is not a promotion of any kind, and I am going to link everything I've mentioned below in the description in case you want to look at it as well. While I'm making my flashcards, something else that I do is I go through the readings and look at the diagrams and pictures that are in the assigned readings and also in the PowerPoints. And what I'll do is screenshot all those images and put them into a folder on my computer, because I feel that if you can redraw diagrams and pictures explaining stuff, it really helps you when you get to the exam, because you can redraw it on your scrap paper and it can really help you answer questions. So I do that as well. And one other little trick that I do is make up mnemonics for things like lists or things that need to go in a specific order, because that really helps me not get confused about where things are or what I need to memorize. So I'll make up a mnemonic for something, completely memorize it, and then when I get to the test, I can just write out my mnemonic, and then I don't get confused about the order of things. And if I happen to forget something, I'll see there like, oh, there's an N in my mnemonic and I haven't listed anything there, so I can sit there and think about what that N was supposed to be. And if I've truly just forgotten the N, I can usually go into the test, and when I see how the question is worded or what the choices are, it can sometimes like spark my mind to remember what that N was supposed to be. Now, I try to begin studying the first day of lecture for an upcoming test, because we'll have like 6 or 7 lectures before an exam. I wanted to explain to you what I do the day before a lecture. So the day before, really what I do is I'm usually done with my flashcards. I'm done memorizing my diagrams, and I'll do practice questions. So the whole day before an exam, sometimes if we have clinical or something like that, I need to do this a few days before the exam, but ideally I would do this the day before an exam. And I just do a ton of practice questions, read the rationales for why I'm getting them wrong, and really just apply my critical thinking skills to the content and information that I've learned for this upcoming exam. Practice questions are so helpful, and you can find them in so many places, but really applying the information is so valuable, and that's one of the hugest study improvements I've made in CRNA school, because I never did practice questions in nursing school, and I really wish I knew how valuable they were back then, because it would have helped me so much, and I would have realized things that I had confused, and I would have really improved my critical thinking once we got to exam time. I didn't start doing practice questions until I was studying for the NCLEX, but if I had done them all throughout nursing school, it would have been so much easier. So I've addressed the day before an exam, but I wanted to address the morning of an exam, what I do. So I really try to never study the day of an actual exam, because I just feel like that's confusing, it's rushing, it causes anxiety, and you really should have mastered the content before that time has come. Cramming is not good for me. I don't do well with cramming, like mentally mostly, but some people do and it might work fine for them, but I really don't think it's a good method of studying, so I don't do that. So the day of the exam, I try to just have like a normal chill morning. I do some yoga, maybe some meditation, because I do have some test anxiety and that really helps me. I try to eat breakfast that day, drink some water, just normal, just make myself feel good, and not review anything. I have reviewed stuff before exams in the past, and I always find that it just gets me confused, so not doing that anymore, and I haven't done it in quite a while. One other thing I have to do is when I get to school and hear a bunch of people talking about the information, I kind of just have to tune them out, because listening to other people explain stuff, sometimes they might be wrong about what they're explaining, or they may have just memorized it in a different way than me, and it really just throws me off. So I try to go to school really close to the exam. If I get there too early, I'll just wait in my car and then go inside. That's what I try to do, and kind of not talk about the information with other people right before the exam starts. So quick little rundown, because I know that was a lot of information to digest. The first thing I do is look through my syllabus and make a list of all my readings so that I know what readings I have to do and I don't have to keep going back into my syllabus. And the second thing I do is I look over the lecture content, which is usually in PowerPoint form for me the day before our lecture. And if the teacher has posted any kind of supplemental materials, I look at that as well. And then I go into lecture, I take notes, and I try to pay attention the best that I can. And then after that, the next step is I go through my notes and my PowerPoints and see what the main concepts were that the professor really focused on. And that leads me into my reading, where I can focus in and skim until I get to information that is very important, and then I don't get stuck in the weeds reading all the stuff that doesn't really matter and wasting my time on the wrong stuff. So after I did that, what I'll do is I'll look at all the diagrams and pictures in our readings in the PowerPoints, because teachers love to throw diagrams and pictures on tests or reference them for questions. During this time, I'll also make my Quizlet, which is my practice question flashcards. And then after I'm done with that, I will do practice questions for about a whole day. I might not have the whole day because we have class and clinical. And then the day of the exam, I'll just try to relax and have a chill morning and go into my exam with a clear mind, not confuse myself before the exam, and that has been working out for me really well so far. So like I said, I'll link everything below that I've mentioned so that you guys can check it out, because it might help you as well. And I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope it was helpful to hear some other study habits that you might be able to implement into your studying. If you have any study tips or tricks that you want to share with me, because I'm always looking for great ways to study, just leave them in the comments below, and I'd really appreciate that. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to follow me along on my nursing and CRNA school journey, feel free to subscribe. I hope you guys stay warm, have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.